Hello everyone, I'm Siddhant. Today we are taking the chapter number 5 of the ABM module A. In this chapter, the topic name is business cycle. The business cycle of any country or if any nation describes the economy of the nation. We will understand it with a graph. So this is nothing but a business cycle. The periodic movement of the upward and the downward is the business cycle. The business cycle describes the economy of the country. So if we take the example of the India, here we are as you must have heard before 3-4 months ago that India is in recession, in the mode of recession. Why is it so? Why our economy is going in recession? There are lots of factors involved in it. We are not going into it, but the business cycle describes the economy of the nation. Right now we are in a recession mode. So this, when the economy is going downward, then it's a recession. In the business cycle, the sequence of the business cycle, it starts with the recovery. First the recovery comes, then peak or boom, next the recession, and then the depression. When the recessions persist for more time, then it's called a depression. So this one is a business cycle. It's a continuous upward and the downward movement in the economy. So now understanding business cycle, how does this concept comes? This concept comes in the 1929. There was a great depression occurred. After that, in 1929, when the great depression occurred, it was thought that everything, whatever, when the economy fluctuates, when the economy go into the recession, it will naturally comes to the recovery, or it will naturally comes to the peak after that. But and this concept is given by the Smith, that everything will comes to the equilibrium point on its own. But in the 1936, J.M. Keynes came and he said that no, if we allow it naturally to come to the equilibrium point, it will take a lots of time. If the country is going into recession, then in order to move it into the recovery or the peak, then it will take a lots of amount of time. So J.M. Keynes introduced the concept, if government intervene and injects money into the system, then the economy will soon comes into the recovery mode, or soon will become peak or boom after going through the recession period. So according to the J.M. Keynes, if the economy is in recession, then if government intervene, then it can easily come into the recovery path. So this is the concept given by the J.M. Keynes. If you want to understand with an example, right now India right from the October or August is undergoing into recession. There were lots of discussion in the newspaper that India is going under a recession. So the government has changed lots of policy of India and also introduced a national infrastructure pipeline. You must have heard in the newspaper or somewhere else. So that national infrastructure pipeline, which is 102 lakh crore of rupees, is nothing but to make India came out from the recession into the recovery path. So that's why that whole investment is being done by the government, so that it can come into the recovery path. Now coming into the questions, the features of the business cycle is regular, repetitive, predictable, periodical. So the business cycle are periodic in nature. It is going upward, downward, upward, downward. So it's called a periodic cycle. This is known as periodic cycle. So it is periodic in nature. Don't confuse it with the repetitive. Don't confuse it with the regular. It is a periodical. You must have in your mind. Business cycle, also known as the business cycle, as we have discussed, the business cycle gives a picture of the economy of the country. So it's called a economic cycle. A wave of prosperity or the depression in one industry affects another in a business cycle. What is the property called? Okay, if any industry gets hampered, it hampers the industry around them. Recession, so lots of MSME is closing down. If MSME close down, then there will be no supply of the raw material to the big industries. So the big industries will also get hampered because of the MSMEs. So this concept is in the business cycle is known as the synchronic effect. The business cycle is synchronic, means if one industry gets affected, it will affect the other industry around them. Which the next question, which one is correct? The option A is various phases in business cycle are repeated. So we will understand with this graph. The first option is various phases in the business cycle are repeated. Yes, the phases are peak, recession, trough, or recovery. The peak is also known as the boom. and trough is also known as the depression, a kind of. So it is repetitive in nature, so these phases are also repeated with every complete cycle. So the first option is correct. The second option is there cannot be a definite boom or the depression period. Okay, this period, what up to what time the recession will persist, no one knows that up to what time the recession will be there. So it is not definite, so there cannot be definite, so cannot it is saying. So uh, this option is also correct. Next is business cycles are pervasive nature. Pervasive means if one industry affects it affects the other industry. Yes, we have seen in the previous questions, so this option is also correct. So the fourth one is wrong, so this one is the right answer for this question. Upward movement are sudden and downward the sudden then downward. It is not correct because no one knows the upward movement it will take how much time, and downward it will take how much time. So it is not certain that upward movement are sudden and then downward movement. Next question. Crisis phase, also known as the crisis phase, is also known as the recession. You must remember or keep it into your mind. Situation when supply exceed demands. What is that situation when supply exceeds demand? Is recession. Whenever the recession occurs, the demand in the market squeeze down. No one wants to buy goods. It will they want to delay the things. So what happens when supply exceeds demand? The goods started to piled up in the shop. So this happens when the supply exceeds demand. So that's it with this. Please subscribe the channel. Thank you.